Hi everyone and welcome back to another episode of our student athlete interview series. This series consists of multiple interviews with different athletes at all different levels playing all different sports. So our guest today is Caroline Adams. She is a rising sophomore at Catholic University on the softball team. Hi Caroline.
Hey Katie, thanks for having me.
Of course, thank you so much for coming on. Okay, so let's just get into it. So, do you mind telling us a little bit about when you started playing softball? What made you start playing softball? That kind of stuff.
Sure, yeah. So I started playing softball when I was probably around 8 years old. I always loved sports when growing up. I played basketball and soccer. So when I was about 8, I decided to give softball a try too.
Yeah, awesome. So you started at a young age at 8. So, did you have any role models or favorite players, people that you looked up to while you were playing?
Yeah, so growing up, I actually always watched the University of Florida Gators softball team.
Hmm.
I kind of always just love their energy and their continued drive to win each year. They're kind of the team that I still look up to today, and I love learning each time I watch them.
Yeah, for sure. So you said you watched college softball a bunch. So when did you realize okay, this is what I want to do? I want to play in college. When was that point for you?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there was ever a specific point where I was like, yes, I definitely want to play in college. It was more the fact that I could never imagine myself not playing, which kind of just drove me to keep playing each day.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so when did you realize that? What was the point kind of going into your recruiting process where you realized this is that you can do this, you can go to play softball in college?
Well, I always loved to be active and having a schedule, which I think was a big thing for me. I definitely knew that the being a collegiate athlete would provide that opportunity to have a set schedule um, throughout college, and I think that was a big turning point for me.
Yeah. So when did coaches start reaching out to you and you started reaching out to them?
I would say definitely after junior year, like junior year summer was a big realization point for me to.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your recruiting process for Catholic. What was that like?
So I would say I kind of stepped on campus at Catholic about in sophomore year, and I kind of knew in that moment that that was the school that I wanted to go to. It was one of the first schools that I looked at, so I kind of tried not to get my hopes up too high because I knew that I'd explore a lot of options. But I loved how it was a campus in DC, and it was like a small enough size where I could know many of my classmates, and it had really nice facilities for their athletics.
Yeah. Awesome. So what would you say your biggest change from high school to college was on the academic side?
I would say academically, the biggest change between high school and college for me was definitely going from that, 5 periods, 5 days a week, 8 to 3 class schedule to in college where it's throughout the entire day and you don't know, when your classes are going to be. If there could have a class at 7 a.m. and a class at 7 p.m. So kind of learning to know when you have those specific time blocks and
Yeah,
like stuff when you can adjust and finish all your work.
absolutely. And then what would you say the biggest change was athletically, like whether it was in the weight room or on the field? What was that change?
Yeah, athletically, I would just say that you've definitely gotten to a point where you have to realize that everyone's kind of made it to that top level. So each person is kind of working harder than you could ever imagine, and which is different than high school and travel ball. There's a lot of different skill levels, but once you make it to college, everyone is definitely at a similar point. So each person that's working is working to outwork you if you don't continue to do it yourself.
Absolutely. What would you say, how did you learn to balance your schoolwork and having softball now? How was that transition for you? What was that like to learn that balance?
Yeah, I think just the major thing is just knowing yourself and what you can handle between balancing athletics, academics, and the social life. You kind of just got to know yourself and know the time that you have and what you can finish everything.
Absolutely. So you just finished your freshman year. So how did the pandemic affect you? Because you did have COVID all of your freshman year. You went on to campus, you didn't really know anyone when you first got there. What was like, and you didn't really know necessarily what everything was going to be like because everything was so changing. So talk little bit about how the pandemic affected you during this whole time and what it was like for you at school and at softball.
Sure. Yeah. So in the fall, it was actually just freshmen on campus. So that was definitely a little bit of an adjustment because we didn't really know if we were going to have a fall season at all until it turned out that we had about like a 3-week season, which was really nice because I got to meet the team. And then towards the spring, we actually had a little bit over of half a season, I would say. Traveling with the team was really great. And I think it kind of, in a weird way, like the pandemic made it a little extra special because since we weren't really supposed to socialize with a lot of other people, it made us closer as a team.
For sure. So what would you say your greatest accomplishment has been as an athlete?
I would just say getting to where I am today, I think each day is really the accomplishment of itself.
Yeah,
The opportunity to just like every time you have an accomplishment, I think you just get another opportunity to achieve another goal.
yeah, for sure. And then kind of to wrap things up, do you have any advice for maybe student athletes that are maybe in the recruiting process, trying to get recruited, thinking, what, I don't know if I want to do this. What would your advice be to those athletes?
Yeah, I would definitely just advise them to keep working, never give up because really anything is possible. Sometimes things don't go the way that you might like it, but I do think that like everything does really happen for a reason if you just continue to keep going with everything.
Awesome. Well, that's all we have for you. Thank you so much for coming today.
All right, thanks for having me, Katie.
Have a good rest of your day.
Bye, Katie.